Welcome to Sidestreets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, Angela Champ, and in the studio with me today is the one and only Marshawn Phelps. Yay! Now, before we get started, I just want to say that if you are interested in hosting your own show here on IntellectualRadio.com, please do not hesitate to call 708-223-8953. And so, welcome into the studio here at IntellectualRadio.com. And just tell everybody about who you are and where you come from and what it is that you do.
Well, first, I want to thank you because you definitely are the phenomenal champ. This was a shock to, get the invite to come out. And so, I want to just thank you for that. But I'm Marshawn Felters. I'm the founder and owner of Act Yoga. I'm the founder of the first yoga studio in the Austin area. I've been teaching for about 9 or so years. Started the business maybe about 3 years ago. And I teach inside the Cook County Jail. I teach in schools, you name it. We're a mobile service. So wherever there's a need, we're there to help to try to fulfill that need.
Now, the reason that we have done a program together, even though we had different services that we were bringing, we've actually worked together. And I think that almost 2 years ago now.
Correct.
I believe. And I believe at that time I said that I wanted to someday in the future get back with you and just talk about, let the world know what it is, that you do. And did not know that I would be on IntellectualRadio.com. So we just never know how this thing is going to work out. But I am ever so grateful to the other Winfrey over there who saw something in me. So the subject matter that we're talking about today is our Black men are under attack. Mm-hmm. And not only from just working inside of the Cook County Jail, but our Black men are under insurmountable amount of stress. And so what I want you to share with our viewers and our listeners, as we are heard on iHeart, Spreaker, Facebook Live, is what it is that yoga does, because it's not just for a woman anymore.
No, absolutely not. Me being proof for that. Right. It's yoga is this phenomenal trend that is now catching on more mainstream. And I'm very happy to bring it to our culture because it definitely helps to bring some connectivity, some healing, and some overall needed resources for people that have gone through and are currently going through things in life. And so, as we look at a nice amount of the Black culture, we are trauma-strapped people. And there's a stigma with things like therapy and yoga and any holistic healing that makes it seem as if you're a part of these things, then something is drastically wrong with you. Well, there's something wrong with all of us. And so just day-to-day living, there's good stress, but mostly we encounter a great deal of bad stress. And so the question is, to each individual, how do you repair yourself? How do you heal to be able to go day to day? And if you're a giving kind of person, you're pouring out day to day. And so just think of a water pitcher. If you pour all of the water out or you get it so low, there's not enough to give to somebody else that's truly in need. And that person that's in need may be yourself. And so yoga is that restorative thing that helps with minimizing the stress, helping you to connect. And we're a three-part being. We have a mental, a physical, and a spiritual capacity. And each one of those need to be fed daily. And when you're not feeding those, that causes a void. It's just the same as saying an idle mind. Most people say an idle mind is the devil's workshop, and there's a lot of truth in that. And so what you don't purposely feed yourself, then you leave room open for other thoughts to come in. right now, the biggest thing, the biggest stressor for a lot of people is Facebook, social media, because it keeps you in a constant state of judging. You're constantly judging somebody's post. Why she say that? Why he do that? What they got on? Why they post that? Is they talking about me?
So would you say that the social medium forums, they've not been utilized for the purpose that they initially were to serve? Or would you say that in some ways by strategic design, it was meant solely and so that purpose? So now that we're basically living in a state of constant anxiety, we are forced to wonder what people are thinking about us, even when we really have no real connection other than this social medium thing called Facebook, if you will, or Snapchat, or whatever other mediums that we've chosen to communicate. And would you say that with respect to yoga, talk about how it has a sense to bring balance to the core? And particularly my focus again is with the work that you've done with men, because when we think of yoga, we always think of those things that are meant or designed for women. But the fact is that because, and I don't like using the word black because we're not black. So because we are of African American descent, our men, they are under an insurmountable amount of stress, particularly those who are trying to do right. And so because the media has sensationalized many of the things that we do, even if it's on a small scale, they blow it up. And so now it has this negative connotation. So explain to myself, along with my listeners and viewers, what you've seen and how did you get into yoga, actually?
Okay. Uh, Pretty good. So let's start from the latter. Me getting into yoga came from being incarcerated. I was incarcerated, and I was a testosterone lifter. I was lifting for the vanity of it. I wanted to be huge. I wanted to look like some of the other people. And so I was lifting weights way beyond my capacity. I look great, but oh, did it start to tear down the body in such a way. And so, I too was one of the ones that just the mention of the word yoga was like, what? That ain't for me. I thought that was for like petite white women. That's who that's for. That's not for me. And so after some time, I actually took my first class. There was a guy that got the class approved at the correctional facility, and he actually put in a great amount of work to get that done. And so the class had been going on for a while, and he kept inviting, and I was like, nah, not for me, not for me. Um, so I took my first class, and it truly was something that I had never experienced. Just the breathing and the stretching, being what I know now, being present in my body, and self-soothing relief caused me to just take notice of that. Over a period of time, I started to notice my sleep pattern was different and better. Mental clarity. I wasn't snapping out and being aggressive towards people. It really started to become noticeable, so much so that other people would comment on it. It's like, wow, this is something different. And they would joke. We all would joke and say, boy, that yoga is it's a great drug. You need to keep doing that yoga. And even in times, off of the mat, people would say, boy, you probably need to get back when I get snappy or something like that. People say, you probably need to get back to yoga. But I love the template. I'm not into the philosophy of yoga more than I am appreciative of the template. And the template is, again, that which feeds the three-part being of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And I think it's a great structural thing that is needed, especially now in this time. When I was younger, the community helped to raise people. There was the big moms on the blocks and the uncles. You had plenty of those that would say, get down from there, put that back, don't do that. Well, when those people kind of grown up, and now these millennials that don't listen to anybody, you know what we avoid of, one, we're avoid of spiritual connection. People, to mention the word God, people are like, here we go with that again. But if you buy a brand new car, any brand, you buy a brand new car, something goes wrong with it, I would hope your first thought is not taking it to an alley mechanic. You want to take it back to the dealership. We are beings of the Most High. And so when something is wrong, we should consult the Most High about what it is that's wrong. That's where we should be getting our directions, our guidance. But because we are so far removed from that, we need some substitute to bring us back into connectivity spiritually. And I believe yoga has those components to do that. The mental aspects brings you present in your physical and your mental, and it has the capability, once you're steeped into a practice, it has the ability to connect you into all three of those areas so that you can find insight within yourself. You can get connected spiritually, mentally, you can become focused physically, and those things are, again, like I say, a great platform for healing, connectivity. And those are two biggest things that I think we need in this time now. When you look at poverty, just recently, my pastor, Demetrius Brooks, said this. He said that poverty is a trauma. And it just really opened up some more avenues in my mind to look at, wow, that is so true, that poverty being a trauma. When you look at the unnatural things that's happening day to day, there used to be a time where you didn't see people out on Front Street hanging out, and especially you there wouldn't see their underwear. But now we have those things. You're seeing people on social media live. You're seeing murders live on social media. And so as our kids are seeing these things and growing into these things, they can take on the mindset that this is natural. But this is so far from natural, and the impactful stress that this causes on a day-to-day when you're growing into and through these traumas, and you feel like it's all right, but on the inside it's not all right. But again, when there's the stigma of, if you need trauma, if you need therapy, or if you need some type of outside help, you must actually be really crazy or something like that. So my thing is to bring this practice, practice to the inner city, so that we can see a way through just coping with what's going on, but that we can really grab it in a headlock and be impactful on a much higher level and being purposeful about how we're affecting day-to-day life.
Now, what's interesting is that Marshawn and we actually, he helped me to participate in, I wanted to create this a gathering. For those that don't know, I do like to work out. And we met over at Swallow Hill Cliff. Now, for those who have never been to Swallow Hill Cliff, located in Palos Hills Heights, Illinois, it is something. And there are two sets of steps. Actually, they have since built another set. And it is something, is it not?
It is. It is definitely a place to visit. You will be challenged in all your capacity. So yes, I'm thinking about going back out there within the next couple of weeks.
Well, most definitely we will have to make that happen.
Cool.
Also, what I did observe with the men that you were working with at Cook County, that a lot of the behavior, it did seem to curtail some of the anger, because they learned how to redirect and refocus, and that they're being angry, and a lot of it was rightfully so, when you understand how the system and the systems are designed with respect to the African American young man and boy. And so, but the thing is not to take that aggression so that it becomes destructive. And so, can you just talk about some of the poses and some of the things that you taught these young men, and initially started off, and just talk about how it started, where I think it may have started off with maybe 6 or 8 guys, and it grew significantly.
So there was an interest in some type of meditation initially. And so the contact person from the jail, a lieutenant, called me, and I seen the sheriff caller ID pop up. And I was like, I'm not answering that. I don't know what they want. I'm not, I'm not in any type of trouble. So I'm not on papers or nothing like that. So I don't know why you calling me from the sheriff's line, right?
Absolutely.
So I didn't answer. And I was actually in the car with my business manager, and we were going to a meeting. And I was like, well, no, I'm not going to answer it, right? So the person called back again, and I was like, I wonder what this is. And so I still didn't answer. I get an email saying, hey, this is Lieutenant, and I want you to come out and talk about yoga to the guys. And I was like, oh wow, okay, cool. It blew my mind because having been incarcerated, I never would have thought that I would be able to go back in that kind of way, of all things, to teach yoga and meditation to the guys. So I was honored by it, and so I set up an appointment right away. Went out, and the first set of guys, I believe it was about 8 to 10 guys, and so we uh, offered it to the general population, and more than 50 guys signed up. And so they told me if I could get yoga mats for those guys, then they could come. So I put out the word that, hey, I need yoga mats, and people flooded me, and they got the yoga mats to me, and I got them inside the jail. And from that day forward, we've had no less than maybe 30 guys per class. The class at one time was so huge that we had to break it up into two groups, which is really key, because I was the same way. Initially, I didn't think that it was something that I wanted or needed. But life has a way of showing you, God has a way of showing you that, it's not in your own understanding that you'll come by way of things. Some things you have to be led into. And so with these guys that have a high amount of anxiety and stress, being them guilty or innocent, that's not the issue at hand. The issue is the overall health of the individuals there. And to be further subjected to stresses by way of your environment, compounds whatever you came in with. And there's some people, again, aside from what the actual charge is, there are some people that have some really traumatic histories, and to come into a place that is foreign and unknown really compounds that. And so how do you seek help in a place that views you as
A threat.
a threat,
Absolutely.
or view you as less than worthy of even considering your request, maybe to rehabilitate or to actually try to get some sense of what is wrong with you?
Absolutely.
And so this has become very therapeutic for the guys, and honestly for me as well. It is a humbling thing to go in to know that you have something for people, and they need it, and they want it. It went from a nice amount of guys saying, man, nah, I ain't signing up for that yoga stuff. It went from that to, hey man, why the yoga man ain't here today? Or, hey, Lieutenant Commander, hey man, we didn't get out for yoga.
I
And
can attest to that.
exactly. And so it's like, wow, and it made the system open their eyes, because there was initially some pushback. Some of the staff didn't want to cooperate. They didn't feel like this should be something they felt more like this was a privilege and a luxury for the guys, more than it was something to help them out with. And even some of the staff didn't even care if it was helping; they just didn't want to do it at all. But to look at the impact that it has had, and it is one of the most popular programs that they have out at the county jail. So much so, the directors have taken notice, and they've asked me to expand. So I'm now in 3 buildings, and if I can do a couple of more, we could probably make it into a larger stretch. But yes, the behavioral problems for some of the some of the most disruptive guys.
So let me interject just for a quick
Mhm.
second, and that yoga, you talked about the stress, the observance of these guys, whether it doesn't matter particularly what the crime in and of itself, but also looking at the historical component that brought them to this point, and that yoga has deemed a very necessary tool for them to redirect their anxieties or fears and frustrations. Just kind of talk about how yoga, what it does, and what is the one of the first things that you introduce anyone that's coming out to learn yoga? What is one of the first stances, one of the things that you actually do that makes one say, well, is this something that I think I could try? And how soon will you begin to notice a difference in just your whole demeanor? Or is it just like it just an epiphany?
Pretty good. Well, for me, it's setting up first the connectivity, and that starts with seeing people as people, making them feel a part of instead of maybe a test subject or a thing to do or worse than what they are, but just setting up a lot of times just greeting people right where they are, having a conversation. My style is to facilitate more than me saying I'm a teacher or I'm an instructor. I facilitate. And the way that I facilitate is there's three parts in which I facilitate. There's a group discussion where everybody has equal input. There's no such thing as a dumb question, because if you don't know the answer, then how could the question be dumb? But also, too, where some people are shy and timid, those that are brave enough or those that are open enough to ask questions, it then feeds those that are not yet ready at that level. And then so we do the physical part, which are in yoga are called asanas, and those are the poses. And those poses, from being incarcerated, I know from experience that sleeping on a slab of concrete or steel, there's no give in it. And so the crumpled shoulders and the pain in the back and the neck are things that I can give them poses to relieve those things, because I know what it's like to sleep on a steel slab. And so when you've had the luxury of a Sealy Posturepedic mattress, and now you're sleeping on a steel slab and a shoe maybe for a pillow, these things take a great toll on your body. And so there's certain asanas that I do in concert with one another so that it relieves some of those more pronounced areas, the shoulders, the lower back. And then we can, in a series, move into just the whole thing of elongating the muscles, rejuvenating the whole body. And the mental aspect will come in from the meditation. And so there's multiple styles of meditation, and I try to use and as many as I can, because I want to be able to give people something that'll work for them. So if I was to do just one or two types of meditation, that may not fit everybody. One of the things is in there is that, and this is a true story. There was a guy that went to see the psychiatrist because he said he was hearing voices. And so the psych asked the guy, well, what are the voices saying? And he said, just just be talking. They just be saying stuff. So when they finally kind of got down to everything, it was this guy hadn't had many opportunities in his life to be by himself. And so it was his own thinking, his thoughts. Can you imagine just
Deep,
your own,
deep,
just hearing yourself think for
deep.
the first time was to him, it was spooky, it was scary. Just the same as there's things of, being in a place where it's filled with people, but you feel so isolated and alone because you're by yourself, even though there's hundreds of people around you. Even on your
Absolutely.
living part, there's 50 or more people with you, but to still feel that sense of alone and isolated, and that again can cause people to go into different stages of, again, trauma. And if that person doesn't get the help that they need, then any conviction for any amount of time is not going to heal that. Time alone necessarily does not heal all wounds. If there's no intervention, then this person comes back to the street maybe worse than what they actually went in. And so what was the harm, or what was the harm in them going to a place and then coming back out, if not worse, maybe the same? It does no good. And so the practice that I teach is more experiential, and it's designed purposely to give that the person that participates, to give them insight into themselves so that they can grow from within and then see themselves blossoming on the outside, not just on the outside of the bars, but being able to be free, even though you're physically incarcerated, being able to be free mentally and spiritually helps coping in environments where the uncertainty may be you may actually go and get convicted, or any scenario could happen when you're trapped in the justice system.
So let me ask you this, because for those that want to know exactly where you are located, we understand that you are in the Austin area. But for those who do have the opportunity to physically come to your place of business to learn some of these techniques and just to get a better understanding of what yoga is and what it does to the human body, where are you located and how can people reach you? For those that are listening, iHeart, IntellectualRadio.com, Facebook Live, and Spreaker.
Okay. So we're located 1140 North Lamont. That's a block west of Cicero and Division. And I'm so happy to be able to say this. You can Google me, Marshawn Feltis. You can hit me up on Facebook, Marshawn Feltis, or you can look up the business Act Yoga. You can reach me at phone call 773-331-6633. You can reach me by email. There's tons of ways that you can reach me. So I'm saying all this to say there's no excuse not to come and see what parts of you can gain back. We have to look at how do we redeem the time. We've lost a lot of time. We've wasted a lot of time. And so in redeeming the time going forward, how do we go forward without all this baggage? And so that's the thing that I'm happy to be able to facilitate. We're a mobile service, so you can hit us up and we will come out to you. We have a customizable service that is wrapped around simple solutions. And so we beat down the concept of yoga clothes. There's whatever you have on, pretty much that's what you can do yoga in. So we have a workplace refresh that works great for companies, schools, churches, and as well we have classes on Mondays and Thursdays from 6 to 7 and Saturdays from 11 to 12. And April the 1st we'll be starting a power yoga class bright and early in the morning from 7:15 to 8 o'clock. So, and the very last thing with that is we're so excited. We have a new software now that has given us an app. So I'll be able to announce very soon that we're releasing our app and people can go on and find our services through the Mindbody app.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time out to come here because I understand that you are busy. And I want you to talk about, while we still have some time on the air, where has yoga taken you? Because we know where you've been, but where has it taken you? Because it's taken you some phenomenal places from the conversation that we've had.
Yeah, and I mean the journey, the personal journey, and then the physical places. It amazes me that this young knucklehead that was running through the neighborhood causing havoc and going to prison for almost 2 decades to be out now to be a business owner. I'm a business owner. I'm a community man. I serve on the board of several organizations. These are things that is just mind blowing to me. But again, the concept, the template of practicing daily mind, body, and spirit. And I just want to pause right there to say that yoga is not a cure-all in itself. You have to be fully willing and obedient towards the higher to the least. And that starts with your spiritual life. You have to start there, and then you grow into the mental and the physical to help support. But I've been across different states. I've been invited to a great number of places. All of it seems like a blur now. But what I'm most happy about is what it has done for me on a personal level to be able to help me with things like road rage. I mean, I had to start to develop a bad case of road rage. And, when they start shooting people in the broad daylight, I thought I better get a little bit deep into yoga before I find myself shot on somebody's road. But just given an opportunity to connect with myself in a way that helps me to deal with the people. I'm a mentor. And so, just to be able to be present with people and have them invited into a conversation rather than being dictated to or, just kind of disregarded is the thing that I think yoga keeps me more pronounced with.
Wow. I just want to say we're going to go to a quick musical break. Once again, I want to say this is Angela Champ for Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com with my special guest, Marshawn Feltis. Welcome back to Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. I am your host, Angela Champ, and just want to remind you that if you are interested in hosting your own show here at IntellectualRadio.com, please do not hesitate to call 708-223-8953. Once again, we are an iHeartRadio station. Now, getting back to the subject matter at hand, our Black men are under insurmountable degree of stress and just finding ways to redirect that frustration and anger in this modern day and time so that it proves to be more conducive than destructive. And once again, my guest, Marshawn Feltis, yoga is not just for women. So let's continue.
And so I encourage all of the men to consider, something past what you've tried already and to just be open to something new to give you a better outlook on life and to help you cope with or to deal directly with some of the stuff in your life. And we see people on their phones that are in a blazing argument. We see people that are frustrated from wanting to go to work, but nobody is hiring them at that time. We see people that are engulfed in gang activity. Some of these young people, they're self-admitted into gangs, but when you talk to them, you'll see that they've gotten in fast and deep, and that's not really where they want to be. And so to look at, this whole thing, I really dislike the movement or the phrase, stop the violence, put down the guns. It's not realistic, because when you look at some of these young people and you go to them and you say, well, put down a gun, the next question is if I put down a gun, do you have a job for me? What resource can you help me feed my baby? Can you help me feed my family? And so what we can look at is how do we stage them out of some of the situations that they're in to help them make that full decision to actually commit to living instead of surviving or being destructive. And so we just, like I said, we have to look at alternatives that, it used to be that you could go to a church and find your way. But with people now not even want to walk past a church, it's not feasible.
So let me ask you, do you have any current, I know you did talk about you have an event that's coming up April
We have an event. It's going to be moved back to July.
to July.
So we're doing a workshop in July, and it's gonna revolve around impacting trauma. So that's tentatively it'll be maybe the third week in July. So there'll be information posted on Facebook, Marshawn Felters, or Act Yoga that people can find out about that. But we're trying to take our services more from the studio and into the streets. And so where I'm at, I'm the type that, I will go to the schools when they're letting out. I will go to the street corner safely and try to spark conversations with people so that, people can see a road that they can kind of walk down and wing themselves from some of the stresses and violence that they're involved in. So we have a lot of work to do. And again, it's going to take a lot of us to really get involved in something. If you don't have a social issue on your platform, then you could very well be part of the problem. Because
Absolutely.
this is not a sit down, criticize time. This is a do time. We are charged with being builders, and we need to look at what are we building and who are we helping, and who are we helping and building. And so that means, again, that we got to become a part of something that's being impactful in people's lives to help out all people.
So what I want to do, I want to just thank you so much for coming out. And also, on last year, we were supposed to do Swallow Hill Cliff, but because the weather was so inclement, because of the inclement weather, we had to cancel that event. So I want to again invite you out this year as we take the challenge of Swallow Hill Cliff. For those who are trying to get back in shape, for those who are having issues with trust, this is an excellent way to combat some of those, as we say, issues. And because it is an issue, it doesn't mean that it's a particularly bad thing.
Right.
It is something that, and so Marshawn and I, with our resources, we invite you out. The tentative date has not been set, so I will get back with you on that date. But for right now, give our viewers and our listeners the information where they can contact you, when you are scheduled to be there, and are the classes expensive, or is it specified toward the individual, and things of that
So we
nature?
do have membership packages that are very affordable. We are far below market value. Market value is probably about $18 or more. Our walk-in price is $12. When we're talking about affordable healthcare, yoga is the most affordable preventative healthcare that you can participate in, right? And so, again, we're located at 1140 North Lamont. You can stop in and check us out on any Monday or Thursday or Saturday. And in April, we'll be starting our power yoga first thing in the morning from 7:15 to 8 o'clock. Again, reach out to me on Facebook or through our website, actyogachicago.com. There's plenty of ways you can find us. Don't make it an excuse.
Wow. So don't make an excuse. I need to probably sign up for some of those classes as well. Anyway, we just want to say thank you for coming out and being a part of the Intellectual Radio family. And once again, I am Angela Champ, your host here for Side Streets and Intersections here on IntellectualRadio.com. Until then.